The story begins with Dr. Ben Carson, a world-renowned neurosurgeon standing at the edge of one of the most extraordinary challenges of his life. A call from Germany summons him to attempt the impossible. A pair of newborn twins are conjoined at the head, and separating them could mean the death of one. Even for Ben, whose steady hands have achieved miracles, the weight of this decision feels unbearable. He asks the parents for time, knowing that success and tragedy both wait on the edge of a single incision. But long before Ben ever entered an operating room, his life looked nothing like this. As a boy, he was known as the weakest student in his class, quiet, distracted, and hopeless in the eyes of his teachers. "How many did you get right?" a teacher asks. "9," he answers proudly. But the truth cuts through the room. "Not 9, none." Laughter echoes from his classmates. "Carson, you're the dumbest kid in school," they taunt. Maybe the dumbest in the world. That day, his mother, Sonia Carson, is called to the school. She listens to the teachers explain his failing grades and fights at school, her heart breaking with each word. Sonia wants nothing more than for her two boys, Ben and his older brother, Curtis, to build the life she never had. On their way home, Ben mutters, defeated, "I'm just dumb, Mother." Sonia turns to him fierce and loving. "No, you're not, Ben. You're a smart boy. You just haven't started using that smartness yet." That night, Ben goes to his mother, asking for help. She looks closely at him, the way he squints at his books, and realizes what no one else has. Ben can't see clearly. She gets him glasses, and for the first time in his life, the letters on the page come into focus. Suddenly, the world is clear, and so is his potential. His grades begin to rise, and his teachers take notice. One Sunday in church, the pastor tells a story about a doctor who overcame unimaginable odds. Ben listens, transfixed. In his mind, he begins to see himself in that role.
Was right behind them.
A healer, a man of purpose. After church, he runs to his mother and brother. "Mother, I want to be a doctor." Sonia smiles, her eyes full of hope. "You can be anything you want, Ben." Anything. For the first time, he believes her. But Sonia worries. Her boys spend too much time in front of the television and too little time with their books. Her own burdens are heavy. She struggles with depression and carries a past full of pain. A childhood spent in foster care, a marriage at 13, and a husband whose infidelity and secret life in the drug trade forced her to walk away.
When my husband, Mr. Carson, married.
Now she works cleaning houses, trying to give her boys a chance at something better. When a psychiatrist suggests she take time to rest and heal, she reluctantly agrees, leaving her children in the care of her sister. Before she leaves, Ben slips a note into her bag. "Dear Mother, I already miss you. I promise I'll do better in school. I love you." Reading it from the hospital bed, Sonia feels a wave of strength return. Back home, Ben's promise turns to action. He studies harder. When a teacher accuses him of cheating on a test because his score is suddenly perfect, he stands his ground. "I didn't cheat," he insists.
Benjamin,
I didn't cheat.
He's right. He's earned every answer. When Sonia returns home, Ben rushes to her, grinning. "Mother, I got all my times tables right." She hugs him, tears of pride in her eyes. Soon after, Sonia begins working for a wealthy family. Inside their home, she sees something that changes her forever. Shelves upon shelves of books. That night, she comes home to find her boys glued to the television again. "Why waste your time watching TV?" she says. "If you use that time to grow your gifts, one day people will be watching you on TV." From that day forward, she lays down new rules. The boys must visit the library every week, read 2 books, and write reports on them. They can only watch television twice a week, and only after their work is done. At first, they groan and protest, but soon, reading turns into adventure. They devour stories about scientists, explorers, and inventors. They begin to see the world not as something that happens to them, but something they can shape. Inspired by her sons, Sonia starts reading too. The years pass. Ben, once mocked for being slow, becomes one of the top students in his class. When he wins a spelling competition, his teacher's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Her prejudice lingers. At the end of the year, Ben earns the award for Best Student. But instead of celebrating him, she turns to the class and says, "Benjamin comes from a poor home, no father, and still did better than you. You should be ashamed."
You should be ashamed.
The words cut deep. Sonia's pride turns to anger. She won't let her son grow under such cruelty. She transfers him to another school, one where he can learn free of that shadow. At his new school, Ben meets Joe, a stylish, confident boy who loves fashion. Joe's charm rubs off on Ben, who soon begs his mother for new clothes. Sonia scrapes together enough for one new pair of pants, but Ben's hunger for approval grows. One afternoon, an argument over clothes turns ugly. In a fit of rage, Ben grabs a hammer and nearly strikes his mother.
Shut up! Shut up! All you do is preach me! Shut up!
His brother stops him just in time. The outburst shakes him. Not long after, another argument with Joe escalates, and Ben nearly stabs him. Trembling with guilt, he runs home, locks himself in his room, and picks up a Bible. He prays through tears, vowing never to let anger rule him again. That promise marks a turning point. Ben becomes calmer, focused, disciplined. His grades soar, and soon scholarships start arriving. He earns admission to Yale University, one of the nation's most prestigious schools. There he meets Candy, a bright, kind young woman who becomes his closest friend, and later, his wife. But even at Yale, he struggles. Lectures bore him. His mind drifts. Candy gives him advice that changes everything. If you don't enjoy learning from them, teach yourself. Taking her words to heart, Ben spends hours alone in the library. Chemistry, once his worst subject, becomes his strongest. His professors are stunned by his transformation. After Yale, Ben sets his sights higher. He wants to become a neurosurgeon. He applies for an internship at Johns Hopkins Hospital, one of the greatest medical institutions in the world. Competition is fierce, but Ben refuses to apply anywhere else. During the interview, a doctor asks, "Why neurosurgery?" Ben smiles, because the brain is the most miraculous organ in the body. It holds all the mysteries of who we are.
There's not a lot of faith among physicians.
I want to understand those mysteries and help heal them. His conviction impresses the panel, and he earns his place at Johns Hopkins. But even here, prejudice follows. Most of the staff are white. Ben is not. A senior doctor tells him coldly, "Don't think you're special, Carson. If you don't know your place, I'll make sure you're gone before you can say your own name." They assign him to a regular ward, far from surgical theaters. But fate doesn't wait for permission. One night, an emergency comes in. A man who will die without immediate surgery. There are no doctors available. Ben stands there, knowing he doesn't yet have a license to operate alone. If he acts and fails, his career is over. But if he hesitates, a man will die. He takes the risk. The surgery is a success. The next morning, his supervisor calls him in. "You performed surgery without permission," he says sternly. "If that man had died, your career would be finished." Then, after a long pause, "But he lived. You did the right thing." From that day forward, Ben earns their respect. Soon, another case lands on his desk. A little girl suffering from uncontrollable seizures. Every doctor has given up hope. Ben studies the scans and sees something others missed. He tells the parents that brain surgery might save her, though it could also leave her paralyzed or unable to speak. They decide to trust him.
You think there's a chance this will work?
Yes, I do.
At 6:15 the next morning, Ben walks into the operating room. The surgery lasts hours. When it's done, silence fills the room. The girl doesn't wake. Then, finally, she opens her eyes and smiles. She's perfectly fine. The operation is a complete success. News spreads quickly. Dr. Ben Carson becomes a symbol of brilliance and hope. Reporters crowd around him, asking about the future of medicine. These surgeries, he says, are only the beginning. Someday, they'll save countless lives. At home, life brings both joy and heartbreak. Ben and Candy marry and soon expect a child. But tragedy strikes when she suffers a miscarriage. The loss crushes them both. Still, Candy insists he return to his calling. "The world needs you, Ben," she says gently. "Go back and keep doing what you were meant to do." Back at Johns Hopkins, still grieving, Ben hears about the German twins. Boys born with their heads fused together. The medical world calls it hopeless. Ben studies every record, every diagram, every case study, but finds no guide for such an operation. One evening, while playing billiards, inspiration hits. Watching the smooth rhythm of the game, he suddenly sees the flow of blood between the twins' brains and how it could be controlled. He begins assembling a massive team: neurosurgeons, heart specialists, anesthesiologists. Machines are prepared in pairs in case one fails. For 22 hours, the world holds its breath. The team works without rest, hands trembling but steady with purpose.
Cardio is done.
Finally, on September 5, 1987, history is made. For the first time ever, conjoined twins joined at the head are successfully separated. When it's over, Ben walks to the waiting parents and smiles softly. "Your boys are fine." Tears flood their eyes as they embrace him, overcome with gratitude. Around the world, headlines hail Dr. Ben Carson as the man who achieved the impossible, the surgeon who turned faith, discipline, and perseverance into a miracle. That day doesn't just change two young lives. It changes the history of medicine forever.